Welcome to Liftoff, your first place where you can find everything space and often SpaceX. SpaceX has experienced numerous success in the space industry, developing technologies that for most of us seem to be out in the distant future and more suited to the destiny of science fiction writers, at least until recent times. Despite some obstacles encountered in the early testing stages, Elon Musk created the largest nuclear spacecraft in history, Starship. But what exactly is this giant, and on what journey did it embark in an effort to set a man on Mars as soon as possible? Let's find out. Starship, formerly codenamed BFR Big Falcon Rocket, is a manned reusable spacecraft designed to serve the needs of those in near-Earth orbit, as well as missions to both the Moon and Mars. This two-stage aircraft comprises a launch vehicle with a rather uncomplicated name, Superheavy, and the spacecraft itself, Starship. Superheavy is the first stage booster of the next-generation launch system. It has a total launch mass of over 6,613,867 pounds and employs supercooled liquid methane and liquid oxygen CH4 LOX as fuel. This was one of the main differences from the Falcon 9, which burns rocket fuel. Following a successful launch, the accelerator returns to the launch pad, setting down on a total of 6 supports. The Starship represents the second stage of the system, has an integrated payload section, and will be able to transport passengers and cargo to low Earth orbit and other planets, as well as transport them between various fixed points on Earth. In the past, when a spacecraft needed to return to Earth, engineers used parachutes or designed the spacecraft's core so that it could land on the runway. SpaceX, on the other hand, took a different approach. When the constellation is ready to descend, it will enter the atmosphere at a 60-degree angle and then operate a kind of belly flop on Earth's surface in a horizontal position. This return method relies entirely on the atmosphere to slow down the ascent of the ship. As an added deceleration factor, 4 steel landing flaps are installed near the front and rear of the aircraft to control its descent, similar to the way a skydiver uses his arms and legs to control his freefall. Musk argues that this approach could be used to safely land a rocket on any surface in the solar system. Starship is a unique project because if for anything else, it offers to send 100 people into space at once or load 100 tons of cargo per flight. Even the largest spacecraft cannot boast of such transport capabilities. For example, this spacecraft could not deliver more than 16 tons of cargo to the ISS and only 7 people. In addition, it is Starship that will form the basis for the process of colonizing the Moon and Mars in the near future. The founders of SpaceX have long been already established on the best options for the future of humanity. In his view, people have become an intergalactic civilization and an interplanetary species. An exclusively terrestrial biological species prefers not to live in anticipation of its imminent extinction. Elon Musk aims to send the first humans to Mars in the mid-2020s and establish the first city on the Red Planet by the year 2050. And if that sounds like nothing more than just a joke to you, BFR was originally announced back in 2017, and just a year later, the project got a new name, Starship, which is still used today. As the basis for future spacecraft, Musk planned to use the carbon fiber that was so familiar to the space industry, but in 2019, he announced his decision to do away with it, saying the spacecraft would instead be made of stainless steel. During his 2019 presentation, the billionaire talked about the unusual appearance of the ship, which remotely resembles a classic starship from the golden age of science fiction, sporting a nose cone and landing plumes. According to Musk, he is obsessed with using steel, so he chose it as the base of the ship. The addition of shiny stainless steel, Starship is coated with a thin layer of transparent refractory ceramic to withstand the many temperature changes. While many people still think that steel is too heavy, this is a misconception. It's actually one of the lightest designs, and according to Musk, was the best construction solution. Originally, the Starship prototype used 301 stainless steel, which is a mixture of nickel, chromium, and iron. This material is extremely resilient to corrosion and is much cheaper than carbon fiber in the way most spacecraft today think of it. While the cost of carbon fiber in 2020 was already more than $130,000 a ton, the cost of steel was only $25,000 a ton, as Musk announced in early March 2020 that some parts would be made from 304L stainless steel. This decision was due to the fact that its nature hardens even more at lower temperatures. At the same time, Musk stressed that in the future, the company intends to switch to an alloy of its own making. Other advantages of steel: the SpaceX chief also pointed to the high melting point. In the case of aluminum or carbon fiber, Engineers are limited in constant operating temperatures to around 300 degrees Fahrenheit and sometimes spikes to 350 degrees. This simply wasn't enough, considering that Musk's plans include about 1,000 launches and landings per year. The spacecraft needs to be as resilient as possible to sudden changes in temperature. Plus, the material plan for the engine installed on the ship has changed since 2019. The first was 6 reusable Raptor engines to consume metal LOX, which are a mixture of methane and oxygen, the number of which will soon be increased to 7. It's also worth noting that the Raptor managed to reach a pressure of 269 bar, 3,900 psi, year record of the Russian RD-180 engine, capable of withstanding a pressure of 258 bar, or 3,725 psi. Also, the physical dimensions of the Raptor are not much larger than SpaceX's Merlin engines installed on the Falcon 9 and Falcon Heavy. If this trend of gradual power growth continues, the Raptor will be revolutionary in space travel. The number of Raptor engines installed on the Superheavy has also changed. Initially, 35 were installed, then this number was reduced to 31. They have since increased again, but only to 37 locomotives. Not all of them will be deployed for each of the upcoming missions, but according to Kasturi himself, it would take at least 24 Raptors to send such a massive craft into space. Ironically, one of the Starship's design changes was based on the 2012 comedy The Tyrant, in which the hero said that the round is not scary, the fangs are scary, refers to the appearance of the rocket created by its engineers. The head of SpaceX said that this is why the nose of the new Starship prototype for 2011 has become quite sharp. The Starship system's first prototype was the Starhopper low-altitude vehicle, whose exterior appearance resembled a steel-tipped tank rather than an aerodynamic rocket. SpaceX evaluated engine performance in 2019 with 4 small tests. On its first flight, Starhopper made a short jump of less than 1 foot, lasting only 3 seconds. Its last launch, however, was 500 feet, thus progress is apparent. SpaceX is now facing difficulties with the FAA's environmental assessment, which has put the company's plans on hold. Kasturi's team will not be able to launch the ship until the evaluation is complete. Starships in the future will be able to transport people and goods in our solar system to gas planets as far away as Jupiter. But for now, the head of SpaceX has said that this is a long-term goal. On the other hand, what we just covered was only fiction 2 decades ago, but today the moon and Mars don't seem very far away. What do you think? Will Elon Musk be able to send Starship to Mars by 2024? Tell us in the comments. Do you want to hear more about Musk, SpaceX, and space? Subscribe to Lift Off and hit the notification feature. Thanks for watching, and I hope to see you next time.